selection committee. Your energy was incredible. And thank you to all of the people that auditioned, for all of the people that walked this journey with me in developing this speech. Thank you to all of you for coming this morning, and congratulations to Marcelli. So today I want to share with you a poetic speech. It's a mix, not purely a spoken word poem, not purely a speech. And I've entitled it at the encouragement of a friend, and I call it 1 Minute Miracles. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that at least part of it resonates. Those of you who know me know that I'm both a business school student and a spoken word artist. I'm part poet and part economist. As a student, interested in better communicating, I focused my first days here on understanding how to construct an effective comment. And like many of you, I noticed quality class contributions contained a combination of characteristics: an opinionated headline, careful consideration of counter-arguments, a three-part structure, and a bold bottom line. But as an artist, I'm far more inclined towards the empathy, the subtlety of suggestion, the depth of connection that storytelling provides. As both student and artist, for the next 10 minutes, I'll mix prose with poetry. I'll sketch a collection of spoken word art from fragments of our collective identity. I'd like to display the essence of our business school perspective on the landscape of our minds. I'll leave space to reshape the stories I'll reference to the relevance of our individual lives. So I'll leave out the headline. I'll dress my consideration of counter-interpretations into the robes of my rhymes. I'll anchor my bottom line in the avenues of my alliteration, metaphor, and imagery. But I'll also portion this poetic speech into parts for the ease of your memory. And since I'm not a consultant, I'll claim artistic license and use 4 parts instead of 3. I'll start with an observation, follow it with a realization, then describe a vision. And I'll close by posing a single question. My goal is simple, but it's not superficial. My hope is to wrap our carefully selected collection of randomized lettered sections into words, so I can echo us back to you. While I know there are those among us who have accomplished superhuman feats, this morning I'd like to speak primarily about who we are and who we can be in the day-to-day grind, in the familiar, in the ordinary. Now, what have I observed? First, I observed a meaningful collection of our experiences that I've chosen to characterize as 1 minute miracles. For instance, I remember when a certain case discussion introduced us to the story of HBS alum Kathy Giusti. If you recall, she was a warrior of a woman who influenced many to achieve the impossible, the unlikely development of treatment for an otherwise terminal diagnosis. But in particular, I remember her response to one question. She said, "A leader is someone who can see a problem and think they know how to solve it. So they do. Let the world see what you are good at over and over and over. Let that give you the confidence to be fearless. If you are fearless, you will be willing to go first. If you go first, you will get noticed. And if you are noticed, you can effect change." I remember the frame of my worldview expanding, that lightness and lifting of my heart, the electricity it sparked. I was catapulted into consciousness with a sentence Kathy spoke in the context of her own success and significance. A single moment was monumented inside of me because its meaning became more than a merely fond memory. Not only did Kathy's words provide a definition of leadership for me to aspire to, but a responsibility for me to hold on to, and a roadmap for me to use. Truthfully, my section, that fabulous J. Crew, wonderful people though you are, you finished that discussion as though a seismic shift of my world had not even occurred. Can each of you recall moments like that too? These 1 minute miracles, moments of clarity, connection, bravery, or action, of truth, or discovery, or a deepening of passion. These 1 minute miracles that others seem to casually exist in, but they meant something to you. Perhaps, like me, at least one of your 1 minute miracles is a case learning left lingering in the lanes of your mind. Or perhaps your 1 minute miracles occurred somewhere in the lake of listening, inside coffee shops and living rooms where small groups of us dropped our thoughts like rainfall into the earth of listening ears. We sipped on one another's ideas, challenged one another's beliefs, dismantled one another's fears. Or perhaps you experienced a 1 minute miracle inside the promised palace of an Amy Cuddy power pose talk. Perhaps your 1-minute miracles were somewhere on the horizon of vulnerability, under the weight of wisdom and a veteran classmate's recounting of a difficult decision. Inside the tears in the voice of Patricia Branch Lacour as she shared her and her brother's encounters of stop and frisk policies in her neighborhood. With their stories, our classmates swept us into spaces we would not have otherwise stood. Perhaps your 1-minute miracles occurred somewhere beneath the dust of disagreement and discomfort, across the distance between our spiritual, political, and racial experiences, amongst our authentic but sometimes awkward attempts to better understand one another. Perhaps your 1-minute miracles were paired with pain, linked with loss, hidden in heartbreak or coupled with cost. If they were, then my prayer is that they were also steps towards the discovery of the depth of your strength, the generosity of your support system, the resiliency of your richness, the impetus for your courage and inventiveness. I observed a meaningful segment of our experiences that I've chosen to characterize as 1-minute miracles. Secondly, I had a realization. I realized that these 1-minute miracles did not merely happen to us. Many were created by us. There are 1-minute miracles that we make. In fact, some of our most meaningful moments were gifts. They were entirely dependent on a fellow classmate's excellence and choice to commit. Perhaps if we consider all that's happened over the last 2 years, all the section retreats, the partnerships started in startups, the madness of comedy night, the magic of the HBS show, the countless conferences spanning industries, causes, and continents. Perhaps if we consider all of that, this dynamic of our dependency on one another is obvious. But it's also easily overlooked. I realize that we can be the creators of 1-minute miracles. There are 1-minute miracles that we make. Can you think of them? I can help you to. Perhaps you have a friend who lent their time to provide a lens for you to view their world. I know I do. From Aziz to Amanda to Jeremiah to Lauren. I remember the sensation of being submerged into one of these 1-minute miracles that we make. It's a bit like wading into a pool. You know, when you first dip your head beneath the surface, learn to open your eyes underwater, and you find you can glimpse the world differently. I experienced such a submersion when classmates like Moore City poured the depth of her devotion to the extent of her energy and built us the Israel track. When Moore and her team pulled together parts of their reality and invited us to dive in, she provided 100 of us with a lens to see the innovative engine of industries, her family and her country more intimately and in all of its complexity. Because of her work, we swam into a pond of hundreds of 1-minute miracles. We found an entrance to greater empathy, for unresolved conflict, for unanswered questions. We acknowledge and respect the still unexplored perspectives. Perhaps you too have a friend who provided their time to give you a lens for you to view their world. Or perhaps you are the maker of a 1-minute miracle. I like to believe I was. I remember my reasons for seeking acceptance to HBS after 5 years in finance. I wanted the leadership lessons, the adventures of travel, the potential for friendships. I came here with the hope of being equipped to use business to build bridges, to solve systemic social issues. But I didn't know enough of possibility to imagine we could build a new course called Nonprofit Clinic Tackling Inequality. So I'm grateful to Sarah Gentile and the rest of the team for believing that possibility and inviting me along. And I'm thankful to those of you who risk allocating your credit to an infant course like ours. It still amazes me to hope that we've institutionalized a home to a future classes unknown but possible 1-minute miracles. I've realized there are 1-minute miracles that we make. Thirdly, what is my vision? HBS has taught us that it's great to reflect, but what does my observation and realization of who we are as both recipients and creators of 1-minute miracles cause me to expect of who we can be? I envision that even as we leave this place, to apply our education to our individual paths, to seek to love our families and friends as well as we can, that we do more than merely keep in touch, more than compare and compete and celebrate our future accomplishments at reunions. What if we stayed open to actively investing in one another's dreams and growth in the small but meaningful moments that we may never be publicly thanked for? What if we committed to continuing to make and be moved by and move the 1-minute miracles? I ask because it's simple yet powerful. What if we believed that these 2 years aren't the pinnacle of our impact on, through, and with one another? Because one of the features I've seen in our 1-minute miracles is that parts of you and your story are keys. You unlock the undiscovered and inactivated inside of me. What if we believed that that activation was possible, even probable, between each and every one of us? Yes, of course, with those we've already clicked with, and the weaker links of acquaintances or the deeper bonds of friends. But what if we lived as though we expected that exchange with those we haven't even met yet, but those we will meet in 1 or 5 or 15 years? I admit, sometimes the prestige of this place compels me to feel that my impact must have the significance of a tsunami. I must make a splash, and hopefully we will. But what if we promised not to neglect the everyday choices, the small and the simple? You know they're merely raindrops. What if we rejoiced when we watched them fall and then ripple? If we persevere in making them over and over and over, we could one day fill an ocean of 1-minute miracles. What if this place isn't a culmination of our transformation? What if instead it's the start, a set of lifelong habits, of a way of giving and growing and being alive? If so, I envision that we decide that that lake of listening that we found here will become streams that flow with us, regardless of our residence. I hope we keep our feet and hearts turned towards those horizons of vulnerability. I hope we resist being discouraged by the dust of discomfort and disagreement. Then, we could be waves. Can you imagine it with me? All of the ways that we could cascade, push passion to flow into the ink of ideas, anchor it with action, challenge it with questions, decide it with compassion. We could be waves, which means we ultimately shape the shorelines, systems, industries, our companies, our families, and communities. Now, we have heard all I've observed of 1-minute miracles. We've received my realization that we make them. We've imagined my vision that we can move them beyond us. Then the final part of my poetic speech is here. And perhaps my final question is already cleared, but I'll pose it anyway. In the millions of minutes that we'll meet in our lifetime, will you consider committing to both greeting and giving the 1-minute miracles?